You're listening to the MTG Sold Weekly Podcast. This is the week of June 8th to June 14th, 2026. Hey everyone, revenue is down this week, 772K on 5,760 units, off about 22% from last week's $1 million print, but units only dipped around 3%. The entire revenue decline is one product, the Marvel Superheroes Collector Booster Display. It went from 707 units last week to 274 this week. That single SKU accounts for nearly all of the missing 220K. The rest of the market was basically flat. Daily flow was stable for once, no mayhem spikes, no weird outlier days. Monday through Friday ranged from 828 units to 1,223 units, and the weekend tapered to the 770 to the 830 range. A normal week. I like normal weeks. They're easier to read. All right. The Marvel story evolved significantly. 3 of my watch items dropped off the board entirely, and the Chocobo Bundle finally broke out. Let me get into it. So jumping into the headlines, Marvel, the crunch spread. Last week I said if the collector booster display average quantity dropped below 200 while sell-through held, the product reprices upward. Average quantity dropped to 178.8. Sell-through stayed above a ratio of 1.0 at 1.53, and the volume-weighted average price jumped $469 to $509, a clean 8.5% move. That prediction played out exactly. But the more interesting development is what happened around it. The crunch was not just the collector boosters anymore, it spread across the entire Marvel product line. 7 products posted sell-through above a ratio of 1.0 this week. 7. Let me just run through them quickly because of the scope of this is pretty unusual. 1. So the Jumpstart booster display. Sell-through around a ratio of around 2.76. Supply down around 55%. Average quantity collapsed to 68. This is the hottest product in the data this week by absorption rate. Next, the Avengers Assemble Commander deck. Sell-through ratio of around 2.36. Supply down around 54%. 202 units moved at $66.51. The Doom Prevails Commander deck. Sell-through ratio of about 2.31. Supply down around 39%. 230 units at $101.52. Fantastic Four Commander deck. Sell-through ratio of 1.89. Supply down 43%. The Marvel Gift Bundle. Sell-through ratio of 1.66. Supply collapsed 61%. Sellers halved from 12.5 to 6, and the price just didn't move. It detonated. Volume-weighted average price of $96.85 to $130.16. This is a 34.4 single-week price increase. At 29.6 average quantity and 6 sellers, this product is nearly extinct on TCG Player. And the collector booster display, sell-through of ratio of 1.53, average quantity 178.8, price up 8.5% as mentioned. This is the Marvel collector booster display. And the the Wakanda Forever Commander deck, sell-through of about 1.42, supply down around 24%. The Play Booster display is the one that did not make the sell-through ratio above the 1.0 list, but it's close at 0.91. And here's what's interesting about it. Supply grew 49% to 809 average quantity, and sellers grew 32%. This is the Marvel Play Boosters, by the way. A massive restock wave landed on the Play Boosters, and the sell-through is still 0.91. So again, that's still positive. Demand almost kept up with the 49% supply increase, and price held at the $135.76, essentially flat. So the picture is, distributors restocked the Play Booster aggressively, and demand nearly absorbed all of it. Meanwhile, everything else in the Marvel product line is draining faster than it can be replenished. The Commander decks in particular are moving at 200 units per week, each with supply pools in the 85 to 150 range. That math does not work out for more than a few weeks. I said last week that if the sell-through stayed above 2.0 on the collector boosters, volume-weighted average price could accelerate. Sell-through dropped from 3.0 to 1.5 as the restock hit, but the price moved anyway because the restock was not enough. The question for next week is whether a second restock wave is coming. If it is, the collector booster might stabilize in the 500 to 510 range. If it's not, 550 is in play. And now jumping in to last week's callouts. The Chocobo Bundle finally broke out. Volume weighted average price at $241 to $278, a 15.5% move. I've been tracking this product for 3 weeks now. Seller count crossed below 50 2 weeks ago, and supply thinned steadily, and the price sat flat waiting for a catalyst. This week, the catalyst showed up. 34 units moved at $278, volume weighted average price. Supply held flat at $96, and sellers actually ticked up slightly to 47, some new entrants at the higher price. Sell-through ratio is sitting at 0.35 on a stable supply base. The move looks real and not just thin liquidity noise. Moving on with last week's callouts. The Strixhaven bundle did not find a floor at $49. Volume weighted average price dropped another 10% to $44.11. Supply grew 26% to 391. Sellers grew 12%. I flagged this as a question 2 weeks ago, and the answer is clear now. $49 was not support. The product is still in a supply build price decline cycle. Sell-through is actually decent at 0.34, so demand exists, it's just being outrun by new listings. At this point, this bottoms out when the price gets cheap enough that sellers stop bothering to list. Maybe $40 is that level, maybe not. Lorwyn Blight Curse. I've been tracking this product for 4 weeks now. The trajectory, minus 13%, plus 14%, and now minus 24.6%. Volume weighted average price fell $32 to $24.27 on 66 units across 32 orders, bulk buying at discount. Supply is still at an average of 413, and sell-through improved to a ratio of 0.16, which is actually the highest it's ever been, but the price collapsed because someone cleared out the cheap end of the order book. This product has been a volatility story, not a trend story, and this week confirms it. I'm gonna stop tracking it weekly unless the supply picture changes, because the structural oversupply has not moved in a month. And finally, for the last of the callouts from last week, the Avatar Booster Collector Booster Display, the Foundations Collector Booster Display, and the Doctor Who Commander Deck Display all dropped out of the cohort this week. 3 of my 5 watch items went silent. This is the same pattern as Commander Masters and Lost Caverns a few weeks ago. Volume drops below the reporting threshold, and data goes dark. None of these are confirmed dead or confirmed stable, they're just quiet. I will keep checking the raw numbers when I can, but I can't follow up in the podcast until they generate enough transactions to reappear. All right, and that finishes out our callouts from last week. We're going to shift over to some geography callouts. This one is worth noting. Last week, Washington State led at 11.9% of tracked inventory, with Seattle holding 8,326 units. This week, Washington dropped to 5%, and Seattle is not even in the top 10 cities anymore. California took the lead at 10.6%, followed by Texas at 7.1%, and Oregon at 6.4%. The top city is now Quebec City at 4,268 units, followed by Gahanna, Ohio at 2,223, and Brooklyn at 2,044. Liberty, Indiana showed up with number 4 at 1,990 units. That is the new entrant into the city rankings. And the Pacific Northwest combination of Washington, Oregon, and Idaho went from 22% to 17.1% of total supply. Still significant, but no longer the dominant block. The geographic distribution is spreading out, which generally means more sellers from more regions are entering the market. That tends to correspond to healthier supply depth long term. 2 more things. The Tarkir Dragonstorm Commander deck, Temur War, quietly posted a sell-through ratio of 0.95 on 71 units, with supply dropping 33% to average quantity 75, and sellers went down 14.5%. That is the same near 1.0 sell-through ratio inflection point I flagged Doctor Who at 2 weeks ago. And it's on a product with 2.4x the volume. Price only moved 2% to 68.59, so the market has not noticed yet. If sell-through crosses 1.0 next week, this becomes one of the tighter Tarkir products. And the Duskmorn Endless Punishment Commander deck has a sell-through of 0.73 at average quantity 37.2, down 26% on supply, with sellers down 23%. This product has quietly been draining for weeks. At 37 average quantity, it is the same territory where Foundations Collector Booster was when I started flagging it. And the sell-through is higher. 27 units at 181 volume-weighted average price is not a headline number, but the supply mechanics are telling a consistent story. Alrighty, jumping into our last segment, what to watch next week. 6 things. Sorry, this is a big week. 1. Marvel Collector Booster Display. Volume weighted average price moved to $509. Average quantity at 178.8. Sell-through ratio of 1.53. The first restock wave arrived and was not enough. If a second wave does not land next week, 550 is realistic. If it does, the product plateaus in the 500 to 510 range. Either outcome is informative. 2. Marvel Commander decks as a tier. All 4 are above the 1.4x sell-through ratio, with supply contracting 24 to 54%. These are the products most likely to reprice upward next. Doom Prevails at $101.52 is already the most expensive and moving the most volume, 230 units. If it breaks $110, the other 3 probably follow. 3. Chocobo Bundle at $278. The breakout happened. Now the question is whether it holds or whether new sellers enter at the higher price and push it back down. Seller count ticking down from 45.6 to an average of 47.1 suggests some new entrants are already showing up. If the count stays below 50 and volume weighted average price holds above the $265, the move is confirmed. 4. Strixhaven Bundle. Is $44 the floor, or does the supply build keep pushing it lower? Sell-through is still decent at 0.34. If demand absorbs the next batch of new listings without another price drop, this may finally stabilize. 5. Timor Roar at 0.95 sell-through. If it crosses 1.0 next week on similar supply contraction, flag it. Tarkir Commander decks have been under the radar while everyone watches Marvel. 6. Duskmorn Endless Punishment at 37.2 average quantity. If it drops below 30, this becomes one of the thinnest Commander products on the market. At $181 volume-weighted average price, that is a product where supply scarcity translates to meaningful price movement fast. That's it. Numbers are in the full report on the article on MTG Sold. See you next week.